Are you struggling in the sea of programming languages? Are you wondering whether Java or Python is going to pay off for you? Literally. I'm going to break it down for you and give you the first best programming language to start with. Let's get to it. Getting your first job in the industry is incredibly difficult. Gurus will tell you need to learn Java or Ruby to get into the industry. However, that won't always align with your goal or the career that you want. There are two major factors to figuring out which is the perfect language for you to start with. Now, it's important to note, no one can tell you what the best first programming language is for you to start with. However, there is a way to figure it out. I'm going to teach you that right now. In this video, we're going to cover two sections. The first of which is two very important steps, which will show you which programming language you should start with. And in the second part, we're going to talk about how to use that to build a career-defining learning path. Okay, so the number one reason why people set out to learn to code is to land a job. That's the end of it. Whether that's to improve your life, make a better future, etc., whatever that is, that's the goal at the end of the day. So that makes it a very good place to start when figuring out which is the best programming language to learn. So that means if we want to start off on the right foot, we should work out how many jobs are on the market for the area that we want to choose. So a solid first step is to gauge the amount of jobs on the market for the area of development that we want to go into. What do I mean by this? Let's say you want to be a mobile developer and you decide to learn Flutter. You heard it's the next big thing. So you spend 6 months learning Flutter, getting down the basics, building some projects, and now it comes time to apply for jobs. But guess what? There are not that many jobs on the market, and the ones that are highly competitive, and the ones at entry level pretty much don't exist. A 6-month effort for what? Would you have been better off with Kotlin, iOS, Swift? It's no secret that the top programming languages often have the most jobs available at all levels. So keep in mind, step one to figuring out which language to learn first is trying to pick a language with a good amount of jobs regularly on the market at all levels. Now, we know there are plenty of jobs out there for these top languages, but how do we figure out which one is right for you as an individual for your career goals and aspirations? I mean, how do you know whether to choose Java over Python or Python over JavaScript? They're all quite popular and they all pay well and have a lot of jobs at all levels. So how do you define one? And this is the most vital part, which people often forget. Let's define a goal. Better yet, let's set a goal. So take a second and follow me through with this. Let's look into the future, maybe with a magic ball. And just think, where do you see yourself in 2 years? Set yourself a 2-year limit. A front-end developer, back-end developer, mobile, maybe DevOps, whatever it is, you need to think about it, take a week or so and have a deep think and decide. Now, it is of course important to know that this does not mean this is what you will be doing for the rest of your life. Take myself, for example. I went from mobile development to web development to data engineering back to web development. Once you've developed the skills and you've got your experience in the industry, it doesn't matter, you can swap and change, but in the early stages of your career, it really helps to define. And here's 3 very important reasons why. Number 1, it will keep you focused on your path, stop you hopping from tutorial to tutorial or language to language. Number 2, you know what language you need to pick to get you there. If you want to be a backend developer, there are set languages for that. If you want to be a mobile developer, there are set languages for that. Number 3, very important, you can set a very clearly defined learning path and stick to it. And you can also develop your applications, your resume, your portfolio all around this path. Okay, so I've given you a lot of information there. Now, how do we use that to figure out which language is perfect for you? Let's set the scene for an example. I think about my goal and I decide where I want to be. And now I've decided that I want to be a back-end engineer. I love tinkering with things. I love getting dirty with back end of code. I don't really need to see what people are interacting with or building components or UIs. That's not really my thing. Okay, so that's a great start. I've defined a goal in 2 years. Now I'm going to work back. So I know to be a back-end developer, there's languages like Java, Python, Ruby, etc. So how do I decide between these 3? Well, I'm going to jump on LinkedIn, I'm going to jump on Indeed or Reed or Monster Jobs or whichever board you want, and I'm going to have a look at back-end developer jobs. I'm going to go through the list of requirements and I'm going to see the technologies that are being used by each company. Okay, so now I know that Node and JavaScript and Java and Python are some of the popular ones there, but the most popular seems to be Java. So that is what I'm going to pick for my language. Now there's one more step to this. Picking a language and a career goal is brilliant, but if there are no learning resources or they're all bad, how are you going to get to that goal? So once you've picked that language, have a look across the internet, have a look across YouTube, check out the tutorials, resources and courses. Okay, so we've picked our language Java and we know we want to be a backend developer. But what do we do next? I'm going to cover that in just a minute, but what I'm going to do now is give you an example of how not to pick a programming language. So I look at the market and I see there's quite a few jobs going. I decide in the future, in 2 years time, I want to be a mobile developer. So where do I start? So for languages, I know I can choose Swift, Kotlin, Java possibly, React Native and Flutter. Now at this point you can do two things. The first thing I'm going to say, when I learned Swift 4 years ago, there were hardly any resources out there, and the ones that were out of date. So check the resources that are out there. The second, go back and have a look at the amount of jobs on the market. Are there more jobs in React Native than Flutter or iOS or Kotlin as a native engineer as opposed to a cross-platform engineer? If you do not look at these, you will pick a language with low job prospects, which is obviously goes against what we're trying to do here. The downside of this is that you will probably drop it after 6 to 8 weeks and fall out of love with development, which is not what we want. Now we have chosen our perfect language. Yes, you've decided where you want to be in 2 years, what language is going to get you there, but the step, if you remember I alluded to before, is how do you define a clear learning path based off that. Now to cover our steps so far, you've set a goal, where do you want to be in 2 years, and you've chosen the popular language based on how many jobs are on the market at all levels according to the area of development that you want to be in. But the question is now, what do you want to do with it? Here are 5 steps to creating a career-defining learning path. Number 1, we've touched on before, write your goal down. So we had to think about our goal. We had to set our goal. Now write it down somewhere where you can see it and refer back to it, whether that's a front-end developer or back-end developer. It's very important to have a visual inspiration to stop you hopping from tutorial to tutorial or language to language. Number 2, find a teacher or course that you enjoy learning from. Why is this so important? The majority of people drop out because they are sitting through a mundane 5-hour welcome to CS course. The only thing that could make it more fun is a game of Russian roulette. There will be a course or tutor out there who suits your learning style, so don't be afraid to dig around and find out who that is. Number 3, start with the basics. People often dive headfirst into development and get burnt out or just fall out of love with it. Learn basic variables, data types, how to write functions, etc. Once you've got them down, then look to move on. Number 4, only use tutorials that are less than 6 to 12 months from their publish date or update date. Tech moves very quick, and a lot of the courses you find older than this will have bugs or they won't have been updated, and you will find it very difficult to do the course or to continue with the course. It's not worth the hassle. Number 5, once you have the basics down, don't stay there. Move on and start building projects. Nothing will build your experience and your credibility more than building projects. It's very, very important to get that done and under your belt. If you get stuck, use Stack Overflow or ChatGPT. Okay, with all this in mind, you should 100% know which programming language is right for you to start with. And I'd be very interested to hear what you're going to choose in the comments based off my framework. Let me know, and as always, please like and subscribe, and I'm looking forward to bringing you a lot more content.